And it's on the question of the awareness of past efforts and where these efforts stand now. Mr. Todd.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having us at Focus Art. This is a great idea. I could say, as am I aware of past initiatives to develop arts and culture in Cornwall? Yes, I am. I am chair of the newly formed Culture Planning Committee for the City of Cornwall. We've gone over past successes, past failures, and some of these projects stand today? Some have fallen by the wayside. Usually funding is the biggest problem. Some are still going today. Most recently, we've completed the Culturescape project about 4 years ago, which outlined what we needed to do to progress arts and culture. And as far as what's the main obstacles standing in their way, rushing the process is not a good idea, and money is always an issue. So we're constantly looking for funding. We're constantly looking for the right way to do it, because there will be no second chance. The end goal here is an arts center, and if we don't do it right the first time, we're not going to get it done. So in my opinion, the two things that will stand in the way of this is rushing the process and not going after the proper funding. And at least we're all doing that now. There's groups of us in partnerships with the your Arts Council, Cornwall and counties, are able to find funding, and we're trying to move forward with a needs assessment at this time. Hopefully this needs assessment is done sometime this fall, so that we'll all know what we need in an arts center, what it's going to cost for this arts center, and where we should put this arts center. But arts center is the goal, and it's on everybody's agenda. Thank you.
Carrie?
Bonsoir tout le monde. Merci à l'association Focus Art de nous avoir invités ce soir. My name is CARILYNE. So I don't want to focus too much on the past. And I know it's important to understand the past initiatives and the past efforts that have been done to be able to move forward. But I think when it's time to elect a new council, this is the community's opportunity to have a fresh start. It's time for them to speak up and elect those that are willing to either step up for arts and culture and move forward, right? However, I can certainly make suggestions on observations I have made since becoming a member of the arts and culture community here in Cornwall. So from my understanding, Cornwall once upon a time had an arts and culture coordinator. This was a city staff member that would work with arts groups and coordinate promotion for arts and culture within the city of Cornwall. Now that position was unfortunately cut, and since then, arts and culture has been severely underfunded since. Another observation I've made is Cornwall has a lot of arts groups, artists and clubs and boards that are all working towards the same goal, that are all working towards the same dream. But I find sometimes it's hard for all of them to work together. And you know, we're duplicating promotion and whatnot. So I think the role of an arts coordinator would be crucial in the city of Cornwall, because they can really communicate with all groups that are working towards either the art center or just improving. Thank you very much.
Glenn?
When did the 90 seconds start? After she finishes, or when I start?
When you start.
Almost done. Yeah. Thank you. Have a good evening. Welcome, everyone. And I just, one of the biggest issues that I saw over the years with arts and culture is identifying exactly what group arts and culture is comprised. We worked at this for a number of years around the council table and decided to put together a culture committee that Todd is chairing, doing a wonderful job. Currently, we're waiting for recommendations coming back from that group. And you know, if I look at the main obstacles to the development is to get all these groups sitting down, talking and working together. You know, when we put the Benson Center together, it took 8 years from the start to the finish, but we had everybody singing from the same songbook, everybody working together. It's difficult to get all the arts groups to sit down and start working together, and that is one of the main obstacles. And I think Todd being the chair and getting all these groups together, that's going to be a winning combination. As I said, 8 years is a long time, but it goes by like that. It seems like a long time. And it's been a couple of years now, and I encourage them, and I think council has been very supportive of an art center, and we are there, we're going to be there to support whatever the recommendations come through. Looking for funding is one of the main obstacles for that. And, but I know the federal and provincial government are looking at initiatives, and they'll come through with them, so thank you.
Jamie?
Hi, Cornwall. Thank you for inviting me to this event, Rose. Before I answer the question, how many members does Focus Art have?
95.
95. I've only lived in Cornwall 11 years, 10 years, and as an artist myself, as a filmmaker, as a photographer, as a writer, I've seen some initiatives, I've seen some hope. I've been a part of 3 attempts to help the arts, the Cornwall Cultural Committee, Art Court, which was on one of my newspapers, and then the Art of Everything, which, as a matter of fact, the woman that was working on Art of Everything for us, Marianne Pankhurst, was helped you guys with Apples and Art. But the projects that I see today are either moribund or dead. The main obstacles to their development are, frankly, artists. You just answered that the group has 95 members. I don't think a quarter of your membership are here. There are more candidates than artists in this room, I think. And until artists learn how to work together and stop being divisive and put it on the line, people buy art because they want to. They're attracted to it. They listen to Graham Gersh's songs, hi Graham, because they're good songs and he's a talented artist. That's what makes art work. If you want support, if you want to make things happen, make yourselves more attractive and work together. Thank you.
Ronnie?
Well, thank you for having me. I am not aware of the previous efforts that they've made in arts in this part of the city. I really am not, and I don't want to speak as if I do know. What I do know is that I am a big patron of the arts. I do promote art. I have a hair salon that I feature artists constantly. We have a gallery that even tonight I had a gallery showing just before coming here. One thing that I do know about promoting and what holds back art is public awareness. And honestly it starts with the youth. If the youth is brought up and not understanding it, not exposed to it, they do not grow up to appreciate it. And I think it would stem from that, and I am a firm believer in self-funding such projects. And fundraising in the arts is great. It's actually a lot of fun. There's great projects such as the Color Run and chalk work, where you get kids out on the streets and they paint the streets with chalk. This is how you get action. This is how you get people to actually contribute to the arts. And I know it's a very hard sell. Art is a hard sell. It just is. And you do have to start from a young age and go from there and have events and fundraising events, painting in the park, color run, big things like that. Thank you.
David?
Thank you very much. Merci. Thank you for having me, Rose and Suzanne and the Focus Art Group. Am I aware of past initiatives? Yes. Being on council, I was on the council that developed the Arts and Culture Committee, that I'm now a member of. And I was one of the first councilors to put my hand up to say, please, Mr. Mayor, select me for this one. Because it is near and dear to my heart. A lot of people know me through the sports world, but there's another side of me that is an arts soul, an arts mind. And to grow, you have to have that part of your community. It's an essential part of the community, but again, it has to be a unified voice. It's been said already. There's a couple of points. It was do it once, do it right was the message for the Benson Center. It was heard by all the sports communities who came together to do that. The arts community has to do the same, and it is starting to do that. We do have the Arts and Culture Committee, which Todd is chair of, and we are seeing the needs assessment that is coming. I don't recall ever there being a needs assessment before this request was made. Once that is there, we know what the community wants. We go out to the community. It'll be up to the community what it gets. It wasn't one single initiative that built the Benson Center, which artists used, by the way. They use the main room, and they also use the upstairs, the pommier, and the course rooms as well for their various programs. And that's great, because it's getting into the sports community to do that, and they see how teamwork works best. And I'll elaborate on that as we get down in the themes. Thank you very much.
Brock? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. A little too close there. We're all here because we want to see the arts and community flourish, and the support has been great. But I do have one question for everyone tonight, and it may seem like a basic question, but it needs to be asked. Why doesn't Cornwall not have an arts and culture department? We all talking about all these grand plans. We have concocted a comprehensive plan. Everybody has mentioned it, the Culturescape, which outlines some very key strategic areas and importance that are important to arts and culture. And I printed off a copy tonight I wanted to share with you guys. On page 5, it refers to, and I'm going to quote this, in the City of Cornwall's Arts and Culture Office, which is housed in the planning department of the subsection of Parks and Recreation. That's a problem for me. We all want all these ideas for arts and culture, yet we can't even give it the dignity and the respect to create our own department. And creating an arts and culture department is not a new idea that I've been dreaming of for years. Kingston does it. Brockville does it. Ottawa does it. Barrie does it. Aurelia does it. Why don't we have a department? Why don't we have a department head? A single point of contact. You know, a few candidates tonight have mentioned that there's some disconnect and some huge confusion among artists in the community. This person would be a single point of contact, could streamline information and help secure funding from a single point of contact. They would report to council.
ALYSSA?
Thank you, Focus Art. While I was working with economic development, I was part of the culture consultation, which resulted in the Culturescape plan. And it had many recommendations to the City of Cornwall. One of the recommendations was actually to have an arts council that would not only promote and create awareness for the arts and culture in our city, but also to develop relationships and to guide artists in funding opportunities. And so far today, we actually have a newly minted arts council. So I'm very happy to see that. The other recommendation was to make better use of our existing art facilities and also have an arts and culture hub in our community, whether it would be a new art center or use an existing building, but to create that hub in the city, which I am very, very for. Moving forward, I think the City of Cornwall could look at developing certain municipal policies to determine its role in culture, because at the moment the City of Cornwall does not have that policy, and that would assist with the development of arts and culture in our community. So echoing a bit of Todd Bennett, I do believe that one of the fundamental obstacles in arts and culture is funding opportunities, and I'm hoping that we can discuss that at a later date. Thank you.
All right, thank you. André, de Rivette.
Merci. Good evening. There is past initiatives that have been done by council, and there continues to be. And I can tell you very clearly that we're looking at areas to put those facilities in. I think the problem is everybody's program is very important to them. I understand that. I come from a music family who played all kinds of music, Réveillon on New Year's, everything. And my daughter teaches in Sherbrooke. She went 6 years at McGill in the arts. She's an opera singer. She majored in voice. So I know the importance. But there is a facility for this coming before us. I can't tell you more than that because it's being, and I don't think GLEN of them. I just had the chance of speaking with Dennis Carr, and I can tell you that there's some stuff that's going on. It's going to be presented to council for their recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, what do you have to say on the issue of the past? Jerry Samson?
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I thank you all for being here tonight to show your interest in the arts. I'm very proud to be here because in '73 on the school board, I voted for this edition, and my son used it in 1980. So I'm very proud to be here. Arts, we have to go after the money aspect. The city has divided its budget in many aspects, but we have to go after the grants. There's grants available through the province, through the federal government, and through the city itself. I understand in prior years there was an art coordinator. I think her name was Miss Cooper, and I don't know what happened to her, but suddenly she was gone. We do need a coordinator to continue to amalgamate. The artists themselves in Cornwall and SCNG have to be together to amalgamate and to appear before a council because there's strength in numbers. And the more you're united, the more you attend functions and you get a PR person, it'll show that the arts, that the people and the artists are very interested in having an arts culture center. We had a presentation at council for budget deliberation, and yes, there will be an art building in 2017 if I have anything to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And Mr. Gary, you are the last word. Oh, Sid, did I? What?
I haven't had an opportunity either to speak, but if you'd like, I could just read Bob.
I'm a very bad moderator, am I not? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll come back to you. Okay.
Good evening, Focus Art, Cornwall voters, friends, family. And I want to thank Rose and the Focus Art for inviting me and the other candidates tonight. My name is Gary Samler, and for me, I see arts as a form of inspiration and talent that shows off our culture and our heritage. This group, Focus Art, was formed around 2004, which is around the same time I thought about going into politics. I was working as a community volunteer, and I worked with one of your members, a very amazing woman, Ms. Marie Morel, who was putting on the Parade of Nations. And we had the parade, we had heritage dancing, we had lots of culture and lots of pride in this event. But it somehow fell through the cracks over the years. I worked at Winterfest, where we showed off our music and talent in the city. And like I said, there's so much talent in the city, and it needs to be presented better. And I believe, like others have said tonight, that the biggest problem and challenge that youth people have are the artists themselves, because some of them have built themselves their own empires, and while most of them have the integrity and dedication to their art and talents, others see it as a means for them just to get wealthy and capitalistic. And like I said, you guys get together, and I just hope that you achieve what you're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And I'm going to repair my error there. I'm going to ask you to speak first, Sid.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup pour la soirée. Where do we come from? I remember the first 3 meetings we had. I had 25 chairs out at the Civic Complex, and the place filled up. We had to get a lot of chairs to fill up because I wanted to know if the appetite was there, and certainly was there. Where have we gone? We've had breakfasts. We're starting to raise money. Like we did with the Aquatic Center, some of us went out and raised $1.2 million and went to the province and the feds and said, now we're serious, let's build this thing. It's going to happen. It's going to take the time, and I remember at the meeting I said, we've got to do this slowly and carefully and get it done right. And I'm just repeating what others have said to me. Where they stand today, I just brought home a culture book for Elaine McDonald to look at as she's leading the fundraising. It's the second one I brought home from the same author, which will help to drive in the proper direction and do the things that we need to do. As far as obstacles, well, it's a simple one. It's money, and we need to get out there, raise the money that we need, come back and say to the city, the province, and the feds, here's what we've done, here's what we've raised, let's get it going. It's money, and we'll get it.
Thank you. Mr. Leslie.
Thank you. First of all, I am aware of some of the past initiatives that have been coordinated between the city, counties, and Eastern Ontario Training Board with Bruce Davies as the executive director of YAC. I was on that board when he was hired. His sole purpose at the time was to create the mapping for SDNG, City of Cornwall, which I do believe has been completed. And then now they are moving on to a needs study, which is definitely required, not only for the City of Cornwall's involvement, but also upper or senior levels of government. If the need is not there, it will not be funded. So definitely requirements that need to be done. Don't look at it as a slow process. Look at it as a project that is still in motion and will take some time. Where does the project stand today? Well, we've talked about that. I've just mentioned it. What are the main obstacles to the development? Of course, money is always an issue because it's not just the City of Cornwall and the other investors, senior level of government. We also have to have the involvement of the arts community. Can they fundraise? No different than the people that wanted the Benson Center. They were tasked with raising and contributing to the project also. So it's multifactional. All people have to be involved. The biggest thing is to come together, send a clear message of what you want and what you're looking for.
Thank you. And finally, Guy.
Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir. Mon nom, c'est Guy Saint-Jean. Ce que j'aimerais dire, c'est premièrement, un conseil des arts et cultures, c'est très important et vital pour la ville de Cornwall. I won't be speaking in French, but I do want to address that. We are here in the Culture Center, and I do support bilingualism in everything that I do for arts and culture in the city. In 2010, when I'm asked, are you aware of past initiatives? Yeah, in 2010, there was the culture plan that was put together by the Eastern Ontario Training Board, the Community Futures Development Corporation, and of course, the City of Cornwall. Where do the projects stand today? Well, first of all, there is a culture map, which Leslie just mentioned, that is presently in place. Your Arts Council is formed, led by Bruce Davies and others. And I will say the Arts Council is something I'm a proud member of, and I think that is the next step in taking this project and making it a reality. I know that every 4 years, election time comes along and the arts comes right to the top of the list. And then after elections, it's not so much. And here we are 4 years later talking about this again. And I think that we have all of the elements in place. And if I'm asked, what are the main obstacles? Again, funding, and then also communication. We need to communicate. We have to get all the implicated partners together, collaborating, and getting Cornwall economic development on board on this project. Thank you.
I think we can give them a round of applause for that first thing. Perhaps you would like to stand and stretch your legs before we do the second theme. You're good? Okay. And the second question, or I should say the second theme. I pray that you will stay on theme as much as possible. It's very important. And by the way, the mayor did not come up with anything different than had been mentioned. Especially towards the end, you did touch the item, especially with the people of experience, you did touch what he had to say. Theme number 2, the link between a flourishing art scene and economic development. It is widely recognized that arts and culture are an intrinsic part of the economic development of a community. All we have to think about are Soho, Yorkville, you know, Soho in New York, Yorkville. Once they developed through the artists, these communities flourished. In came the little coffee shops, and then came the little cafe, the little businesses, and before you know it, it was too expensive for the artists to live there, you know, and the artists moved out. But in which way do you think the arts are important for the growth and well-being of Cornwall? Can artists help? What strategies would you implement during your term in office to make the arts part of the economic development in Cornwall? Is an art center part of your strategy? Have you been thinking about that? Do you see arts helping Cornwall grow? What do you think, Brock?
In which ways do you think the arts are important for the growth and well-being of Cornwall? So it's no secret, guys, that arts help to promote the city. They bring tourism to the city, which brings revenue to the city. In turn, it makes the city more attractive, more desirable to live in. It's good for youth in the sense that it gives them something to do, which, you know, there's effects of keeping them out of trouble. And also, and more importantly, it keeps our artists inside of our borders. I know a lot of artists will complain here that, well, they'll end up seeking opportunities in other cities because they just don't have the opportunities here. So clearly it's very important to the growth. Now, strategies in regards to economic development in Cornwall with the arts. So to me, there seems to be a severe lack of cohesion in regards to economic development and arts. Now, if you just look at the two entities themselves, you can kind of see why. Economic development thinks about things in terms of, well, economics. It's money, it's numbers, it's stats, it's mathematics. Artists, on the other hand, are, you know, they're free-spirited, they're creative. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. So if we want artists and economic development to kind of work together, I think artists need to be taught basically to speak the language of economic development. So for example, if we want economic development to start promoting the arts, let's show them actual financial impact that arts and culture has on the community. So how do we monetize the impact? Because, you know, it's unfortunate that a lot of times an arts budget will just be looked at as such. It'll be an expense, it'll be on the books, and they don't really see a return. But if we want economic development to really start promoting, we need to show them that it's an investment. There's a return on investment. So I was speaking with Bruce Davis, who is the executive director of Your Arts Council. He suggested an idea to me that I found was pretty interesting. So imagine we had a trade show which showcased all local talent, photographers, painters, authors, etc. And to this event, there'd be tickets required. And on the ticket, it would be a voucher for entrance into any local business, local boutiques, local restaurants. And what we could do in return would be to track on actually how many tickets were used as a result of this art show. It's a very small example, but it's one way of monetizing the actual business side of arts and culture in the community. And we can use that to, again, leverage things with economic development. How am I doing for time? 15 seconds. Oh, is an arts center part of your strategy? Of course it is, but we need to think realistically and pragmatically. I could sit here and say I'm going to build a $20 million facility. It's not realistic. We have to look at existing buildings, and there are two in Cornwall that are obviously great locations. Altsville Theater, the library.
Thank you very much. Leslie.
Thank you. The first part of the question is how and what do you think the arts, why are the arts important to the growth of the community? It's not only important to the community, but it is to society. The creativeness that comes out of the arts, if it can be inspired into our youth, could create not only just a flourishing arts community, but also a flourishing society to live in and to raise our children. What strategies you implemented during your term of office? First of all, as one member of council, I implement nothing by myself. It is a group effort of people with a common goal. I do think that the goal is there. It's just to continue on the path that has been created. And out of that, a study that is being done and the work that is being done by the committee will come the strategies that we will need to flourish in an arts community. In an arts center part of your strategy, yes, I think that was the objective from the beginning, was the creation of an arts center. To what extent that will not be up to just the politicians. It'll also be up to the arts community. What are they prepared to give back for the funding they're going to receive, whether it be in educating our youth, in encouraging our youth. What role will they play in our society as far as a return on the investment that the City of Cornwall and others will make as an investment into the arts community?
Thank you. Thank you very much. David.
Thank you very much once again. Merci beaucoup. And you talk about arts and economic development and how it's intertwined, because it really is. And I'll relate it to sports because we have something to compare it to with the Benson Center. It provides balance for the community. Arts provides that balance of, and it doesn't matter which type of arts, which specialty you take up or which specialty you promote. It's about balance, and it's you will find leaders of the free world that they're either painters or they play guitar or they find something to do with an arts background, and they grow that way. That makes them complete, and that's how we make a community complete, by including sports, by including the arts. And arts, like sports, should not be a money-making venture. It will never be a money-making venture when it comes to a municipality. It simply cannot be done. It's not sustainable that way. That's why you have to look for outside sources of funding, and funding from within the own community. And relating back to the Benson Center, $2.7 million was raised. That was, at the time, 10%. It ended up being about 8% of the final tally of the $30 million project. But $2.7 million. How did they do that? That wasn't each of the people playing sports. They went to the business community. You have to make the business community believers and show them the benefits of having an arts center. Show them the benefits that their restaurants are going to be busier more often. The hotels will be booked. The cafes will be visited more often. The shops will have different bodies in them from out of communities. They'll have new eyes on them. And that gets talking, and that gets the ball rolling. And it's that key that spurs economic development. The fact that you have to make sure that people become aware and support it, not only from within, but externally as well. And what strategies? Well, moving forward with the Arts Center. There is a plan there. Once that needs assessment rolls in, we'll be able to follow up on that plan. Again, it'll have to be a team effort. It's not just going to be council making that decision. It's going to be the community making that decision. I was lucky to be a part of that rally before I thought of even running on council for a 3+1 at the time. It wasn't even 3+1. And I remember we were woven down the steps at City Hall all the way out to the street. We could not get in. I think our message was loud and clear. If the artists came together of all different backgrounds and had that same type of reaction at a council meeting, that is proof positive that this can go forward. Then you have to follow up with getting the business community to believe as well. That is a huge key, because without the business community, $2.7 million is not realized, or whatever the goal is at that time. And as an art center part of my strategy, I think I've answered that by just speaking some of the answers to the other questions, but it is the end result, and it's about balance in the community, and we do need one. Thank you.
Thank you. CARILYNE.
Thank you. So in any community, arts and culture has a direct impact to the quality of life of its citizens. And Cornwall deserves that high quality of life that I envision, of course, for the community. Now, that's a large part of my platform, but another one of my priorities is attracting and securing better paying, secure employment for the people here in Cornwall. And how do we do that? Well, we need to attract new industry to Cornwall. And, you know, Cornwall's made an effort in bringing jobs to the city, and I commend them for that. But a lot of the new jobs that are coming in are keeping people living paycheck to paycheck below the poverty line. So if we bring in new high-tech, maybe green industry to the community, we're going to increase or decrease the level of poverty, of course. But I think in order to attract these high-tech industries, we need to show these employers that Cornwall has that high quality of life that they want for their employees, right? And so I think that can definitely be achieved through the improvement of our arts and culture community right here in Cornwall. And how do we do that? Definitely through the Arts Center, as I've mentioned. And like I mentioned, the Arts and Culture Coordinator can be a huge part of that development. Now, the Arts Center has been in the city's official plan longer than my existence, so since 1984. And I think we're really starting to come together to see this plan move in motion. So I'm part of the Center for the Arts Collective, and we've started our fundraising efforts. We have a fundraiser coming up in October. You'll hear more about that soon, a little plug. And we're working together with other community groups for that end result, right? But we'll never do it without the municipal support, without the provincial and the federal support, and then the community support, of course. And what will that do? Will it increase tourism? Will create jobs? And that'll definitely support our community's economic impact, of course, and cultural impact. So I definitely support an art center. It is a huge part of my platform, and I hope we can work towards it together as a council. No decision is made by one single person. We need to work together, and I'll certainly encourage all the other councillors sitting with me at the table to support this.
Thank you. Todd, thank you.
How important are arts to the growth of any city, not just Cornwall? Think 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you were in Toronto or Kingston or anywhere else and you mentioned your city of Cornwall, they would go, whew, that stinky place. Now when you mention it, I have family from Belleville and Kingston, and they love coming here now because, first off, we don't smell anymore. We're one of the best, cleanest cities in the province now. But they come here for our festivals, and they come here for the Benson Center, and they come here for our theaters and art tours, and to see some of our art galleries. And this is one of the things that helped change the image of this city. And changing the image of the city is one of the toughest things for an economic development department to do. And arts and culture have been playing a big role in that. And I think people within the city realize that, understand that, and that's probably why you're seeing a little more support for it than you've seen in the past. Nobody comes to a city to visit SCM, but they're going to come to visit a festival, and they're going to come to visit the Benson Center for the sports. And we are, as Dave said, a much more balanced city than we've ever been. It's a wonderful thing to change your image from Milltown to an arts and culture friendly community. One of the things I would implement during the term of office would be to support your Arts Council, Cornwall and counties. And I'll tell you why. This group has been bringing artists and art groups together, and they've been doing a great job doing it. They've been doing a great job promoting. They've turned an empty hallway in front of Altesville into an art gallery. They've helped our art gallery downtown get all new lighting. They've helped other artists get funding to help move their ventures forward. All very, very key. And I can tell you that I sit on the Economic Development Committee as well, and one of the pillars that we have is a focus on arts and culture. And I can tell you they're focused on it because every meeting I'm sitting at the end for the roundtable, I raise my hand and I say, this is what's going on now in arts and culture. And I can tell you Mark Boileau and Bob Peters, who run that department, are very interested. They're very knowledgeable of what's going on right now, and they're very supportive of it. So we have economic development on board. We have the people sitting here on board. The time is right to make things happen now. Arts Center part of our strategy? Absolutely. It's mentioned in the Arts Council plan. It's Arts Council. It's mentioned in the Culture Plan. It's mentioned in Economic Development's plan. It's already in the plans. So as everyone else has said, we just now need to come together, work together, focus, and make this thing happen. And with everybody working together, there's nothing that can stop it now. We're at the point now where we're doing a needs assessment, as I mentioned earlier. This is the single biggest step we've had in a long, long time. So if we want to move things forward, when you hear of the open houses coming up this fall, please attend them and tell our government how important this is to you, because we're all listening. The committees are listening, and the departments are listening.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. Gary? Jamie, sorry.
I'd like to ask a question of the crowd. I know we're here seeking your support, but can I ask any artist in the room who's actually sold their art to just please raise their hand? Question, would you people, and this is a rhetorical question, you can shout out if you want, or you can just think about it. Would you take 10% of every sale you make and donate it to the creation of an art center here in Cornwall?
Yes, we would.
Well, why haven't you guys told City Hall that?
Nobody asked us.
Well, see, this is part of the issue. The politicians that I've met in my life, and I've traveled a little bit, you know, some of them like the arts, and some of them wouldn't know art from a hockey puck. And the bottom line is that arts right now are being considered an economic driver. It's about economic development. I mean, we all want to be nice, but the point is that if taxpayers are going to invest in an art center, it's got to pay off. It doesn't have to be profitable, but it has to actually succeed in attracting the public, attracting tourists, putting Cornwall on the map, really helping things. And it takes leadership within your own community. It takes your own community working together. It takes bringing things to the table. I sat at a council meeting because I cover them occasionally, and minor league football showed up at City Hall, and they said, we've raised $100,000. We need $1 million for a new field. That was a great proposal. They worked hard. They put it on the table, and they said, will you work with us and support us and help us? And these are all the wonderful things that we do. This is what we need the arts community to do. We need the arts community to lead in this project. Also, we live in a town where we subsidize the Altesville Theatre to almost the tune of $100,000 a year. Yet, we don't really do much for artists, or not enough. I was at the first meeting of YAC at Altesville Theatre, or whatever it's called, and frankly, there were 67 people there. I did count. And then when it was time to nominate the first council, it was basically friends nominating their friends and joking about it. This council and the committee over the past bunch of years, they've spent a lot of money, tax dollars, but what have they achieved for the arts and artists? We have a little tiny art center here in Cornwall. It's our art gallery. It's limited. You can't do plays there, although you could do one-act plays there. It does paintings. It does retrospectives. Is it as supported by our city of 46,000 people as it should? Are we really attracting people from Belleville, Todd? Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Sid.
Thank you very much for the question. I guess from my point of view, it's been performing arts, not so much visual, but I understand and respect visual arts. And I can tell you from an economic value point of view, having been president, vice president of Altesville Theatre for 14 years, the economic value of the people that came from, whether it was Ottawa, whether it was Belleville, to see international artists come to this city, that was heartwarming for me. Visual arts is not something I understand as well, but I understand the imagination, and I understand the feeling that people put into their work. The other thing that I've been aware of that I worked with, and I brought the Altesville Theatre Film Festival to Cornwall about 8 years ago. I went to Toronto Film Festival and I said to them, can you help me start a film festival in Cornwall? And they said yes. That also brought people to restaurants, overnight to the hotels, to gas stations, if you will. They need to gas up to go home. It's an economic boom. It's going to grow our population. It's going to show that Cornwall is not only smokestacks, but we have real bona fide artists here in this city. Merci pour la soirée. Je vais vous demander une question, Madame, if I may, Ms. Chair. I said when I came in I have to go to a funeral parlor. Could I answer the last question right away and leave?
Will you accept?
Okay, if elected, would you support Focus Art Association? That's a no-brainer. I've been supporting the arts since I've been 10 years old. I was in a play when I was 10 years old. Are you aware of funding that is currently available that would help Focus Arts raise money? Right now, no. I didn't have a chance to read this and start looking. I got this this afternoon when I came in here. Would you support legislation requiring any building that is constructed with help of municipal funding? Of course. And that is if and when municipal funding is available, because things are going to be really tight for the city in the next few years. But yes, I will support whatever I can to raise money for Focus Art and the arts community.
Thank you for your participation, and good luck with the elections.
Thank
you.
Hope to see you at further debates.
Well, I promised I'd come and sing to a few of your Focus Art things, so I'll do that.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Jerry, down to the other end of the table. That's correct.
Thank you. In which way do you think the arts are important to the growth and well-being of Cornwall? It is very important because I look around this room and I see all the creative minds. I've worked with teachers, I've worked with lawyers, I worked with other personnel, and I can see the creative minds. It is very, very important. I'm saying, how can we attract people? How can we make it bigger? How can we keep the artists together and focus in the 3 United Counties? Don't forget Akwesasne. There's a lot of art over there. By incorporating all 3 units, maybe Montreal has a jazz festival. Valleyfield has a jazz festival. Why don't we have an art festival here in Cornwall? The East End is not, it has to be developed. Why not have different art booths at the Port Theatre, all the way down, have buildings where artists are there? My dreams for the future is to have an art building beside the museum where I can see students and those with special needs out doing artwork in the summertime. Some of them can't run, they can't enjoy the sports that are going on. So by having artists down by the water, what a beautiful sight that would be. All ages, you know, you have to start with pre-K and bring them right up. Bring all the schools up. Bring the teachers along with them. Instead of having a day to go swimming, have a day for the arts. It's up to you artists to show what you really want. Your passion has to come out because I can see the passion and I can feel the passion in this room. You have to stick together. We have to invite our neighbors, like I said, in Akwesasne. There is so much art over there. As far as the building, I told you where I'd like to see it, beside the museum. I think it would be great, it would be creative, and we have a lot of people. And the way we get that is by getting together and applying for grants. I know the province is going to be downloading to the municipalities, so it's going to be hard to come up with money. So fundraisers, like it's been mentioned earlier, I raised funds for the Optimus football field by taking 2 boys in wheelchairs to different malls. Every Saturday, that was my job. I had to take them there so they could sell tickets. You have a lot of creative minds. Come up with ways of raising funds, and we'll be there to back you. I'm definitely in favor of the art. It excites me, and I can see the creativity all around this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Merci beaucoup. In which ways do you think that the arts are important and the growth for the well-being of Cornwall? Well, I think it's huge. I will just explain a little bit my background so people understand. I'm not a visual artist. My background is communications, graphic design, multimedia. That's where I come from. I was also a teacher in a college in Montreal. So that's where I come from, and I work with visual artists on a regular basis. So as far as the community and the involvement with visual arts, it's crucial. And I will say the community, as it grows, and there is a wind of change going through Cornwall right now, we are off to amazing things. I see the change, I see the dynamics, I see the growth, I see how people are talking. There's a more positive outlook on how we do things in the community. And as this grows, the arts and culture has to grow in parallel. So I want to see more things happen to Cornwall. And what strategies would you implement during the term in office? We have to work with our administration, that is clear. So we had a lot of talk about development and bringing things from different cities. I would love to see an arts festival, as Jerry mentioned. I would love to see all the artists from different regions coming to our city and just putting it in the focus and as a showcase. Is an arts center something that's part of my strategy? Of course it is. The Arts Center, I support the initiative. I think the Arts Council is on to something. I do support their vision of an arts center. One thing that I'm not too fond of personally, we have so many infrastructures that we always tend to just desert. They're not there, they're not inhabited. They're eventually torn down. We actually build new and then get rid of the old. We have some good infrastructures that are already in place that we can just move into and save a lot of money. Right now, the Altsville Hall is available. At what point? I'd have to confirm, but I know there is a possibility. You can sit 650 people in their stage. One thing when you're talking about an arts center, there's visual arts, but there's also performing arts that are involved. It's all englobed into one. So I think we have to respect both, and the two have to live together and, you know, be part of the same team. So I think Altsville is a very good location. We have a large setting. You can do the orchestral settings. How many people actually went to Les Miserables that was here in Cornwall? That was a huge, amazing show for the city. And I think the visual part and everything else tied in, I think it's huge. I just don't want to forget anything here. As far as the Art Center, I repeat, the building that's there is something that would be easily transferable. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Perhaps to add to your question, how many people here have been to Altsville in the last year? Okay, good. Gary.
I'm not an artist. I'm not. I'll never proclaim to have any art talents. And my main joy in life was being in the military. I'm a war veteran, and I work security. I'm not going to sing for you, and you'll be lucky for that. I want to become a politician, but I don't know what's going on in every department in this city. But I am curious, and I have a desire to learn what's going on. So if there is any tension or challenges between the arts community and the economic development, there's none that I am aware of because I personally don't know. But I have friends that have had issues with the economic development, and I've asked them their thoughts. And not from me, but they told me that their art visions did not generate enough economic growth for the economic development to be one of their priorities. So I'm getting negative feedback on that, and from a few people, but that's one part of, if I get to get a seat at City Hall, that I would like to check in and find out if this is true. Because, like I said, the arts is part of our culture, part of our history, and I love history. And like I said, we need to get our community to have self-pride and start actually letting us in the community and that city know what their needs are. And like I said, I'm open to hear what the needs are of the community. Like, there's lots going on in this community. There's lots of good stuff happening, and I know with new people that there'll be a lot more coming. And I'm looking forward to being part of this. And I just thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Now it's Glenn.
Over the past few councils, I've been fortunate to be part of the Economic Development Strategic Plan. And part of that, we got a lot of exposure to what interests employers and professionals to come into our community. Now, obviously, the companies, they want to come in and look at what market share they get, what are the land costs, what are the available employment, et cetera. But one thing they look at as well is what else is in the community. They look at recreation facilities. They also look at arts and culture. What do you have? Do you have theaters? They go through the full gamut, because to attract employees, you better have a good cross-section. So that is part of when we were looking at our strategic plan has a number of different pillars. And one of the pillars is tourism, and tourism is tied very tightly to arts and culture as well. That's part of the tourism plan. So when we look at arts and culture, it becomes part of the components that make a city attractive. It isn't all by itself. It's all part of it. And it's important it's an important part of it because of the sheer number of people that do enjoy arts and culture. But you know, right now our strategic plan is dated 2007, and we are in the next term of council, whether I'm there or not, that strategic plan is going to be updated. And part of the updates is to look at those components that are missing in the current plan. And part of that is the culture committee, or the Arts and Culture Center, which is important to our community. So that's going to become part of this, our strategic plan. But one thing I can encourage, and we talk about funding, the politicians have these grants available. But one thing they demand is that you have shovel-ready projects. So if I could give any encouragement at all, is for the Arts and Culture Committee to look and say, let's get serious about what we need, where do we want to put it, and have it shovel-ready, because right now there's a federal election coming up, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of funding available just to buy votes. And so if I was, and I'm a conservative, so I say that, and I'm saying that whether you're Liberal, Conservative, or NDP, they go and buy votes. So I would encourage that you get shovel-ready projects available, because there's going to be money available coming up. So, you know, is the Art Center part of our strategy? Yes, it is part of the strategy for the city, and it will continue to. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. ALYSSA, if you could pass the mic to ALYSSA, please.
Thank you. Cornwall is definitely rich with arts and culture, and our arts community has a crucial role in creating an economically and socially vibrant city. Art and culture activity enhances our quality of life, and it diversifies our economy, and sometimes, though we cannot quantify the impact economically, but it is really important to our quality of life. I love the arts, I love the arts community, and what I really enjoy about the arts is it actually creates space for dialogue on important social issues. Just look at the vagina monologues and what that does to the community. So in order to foster a more sustainable and progressive cultural environment in Cornwall, I think we need to develop methods that mixes culture and everyday life for everybody, and we have to support the artists locally. And a few things that City Council can look at doing, and I support wholeheartedly, is looking at creating a public art policy through which the city would allocate 1% of development project budgets to public art. Because I truly believe that public art throughout the city enhances our quality of life. We also, I firmly believe strongly in the Arts Council, so I would also look at financing our local arts council, because I believe that they could become the hub organization in order to help artists strategically and also with other funding opportunities. And obviously I really believe that Cornwall needs an identifiable place to showcase the arts and culture, and we can also use the Arts Center for training, for production, and for all other cultural activities. So I'm a big supporter of the Arts Center, whether, again, it is using an existing building or building brand new. And so those are my views. Thank you.
Thank you, ALYSSA. Andre, if you could pass the mic.
Thank you. I think it's very important for the growth of the community. I believe that if you're having a big corporation or anything else coming down to the city, they come down to see how is my employees going to have relaxation. If they can go to art centers and they're used to doing that now in some of the big centers, they're going to think twice and say, geez, you know, they got everything that's going to make our employees happy when they're off, and they'll come back more productive. I think when we talk about the something we've implemented during our term, I think that, you know, and I'm not sure if anybody ever visited mocktails. There's a perfect example of a private individual who's open to the arts. Anybody wants to go in there. I've seen people doing paintings in there, sitting down doing paintings. So there's people taking it on their own to do that. And Paul St. Onge, who runs it, does an excellent job. He teaches at l'Université in Ottawa, and during the summer he's off, he does this. So he's very active in the community. I think when we talk Allsville Hall, we want to put the real reason why it's not being used. It's not affordable. It's not affordable to the organizations. And I hear my son say it all the time. You know, Dad, we'd love to bring in something at the Allsville Hall show, band or whatever it is. He can't afford it. It's way out of their league, you know. So I think that's the kind of stuff, and I wish that the city would take over Allsville Hall so we could control the costs. Now, St. Lawrence College are not going to give up their golden egg. That's a money maker for them. So I think that's important to understand. The Arts Center, the strategic plan is, and I'll give you a little more information than what I was speaking very roughly about earlier. For instance, we have Le Village in downtown who are able to access funds, heart of the city funds, where the government told us we didn't have to pay back, I think it was 4 million or 3.5 million in that area. And what we've done over the years, in all these stores upgrades, they apply for grants. Some of them are 50%, some of them don't have to pay it back at all. It depends on the grant you're applying for. I think it's important that if they would, and there's something that will come down the pipe in the near future, looking at Le Village and maybe a number of stores and have art and culture in some of these areas for your own, for instance, your own culture that you want to put on, you'd have a location for yourself. But then you could look at something like that, it would be more like a art and culture village of the community. That's totally different. It's totally affordable because the monies there would be accessed through the grants. I want to make it very, very quickly here, if you allow me. Deb Matthews has put out some funding for the Ontario poverty reduction today, and it's $42 million. They're looking for long-term goals for homeless Ontario. Okay, I better go to my punchline here. I think, and one of the main one is they want to invest towards employment and income security as a critical means of reducing. And they also talk about.
I have to stop you
there.
No
problem. All I'm saying.
I'm going to make a date with you.
Well, I'm glad to send it to you.
We'll finish on $42 million.
No problem. Thank you.
And we'll go see you. Yeah. Okay. And Ronnie, you get the last word.
Again, like I said, I would thank you for everyone that spoke. I heard some really good ideas. Honestly, art really shouldn't be tied to economic development. They are two completely separate things, and they have to be treated as separate things. When art is strong in a community, what it ends up doing is attracting a certain type of person. Artists are attracted to areas. Oh no, let me change that a little bit. The way to get a certain type of public that comes to live here or comes to interact with us is by art. Not only, of course, sports are very important, but that's a different crowd. Art is a separate crowd, and you have to treat them separately. And I really don't think that it should be tied to the economic development of a city. They should be funded separately through separate fundraising, allocated funds for it, and not having, like, I don't like the point about having a payback or a return on investment. Or this is business and it's not art, and they don't necessarily go together. And you have to people have to understand that art is a cultural identity. It has to do with community. It has to do with people. It does not have to do with money. And we really do have to understand it in that point. Of course, an art center, I agree with. I would love to see something like that. I do have to see the would have to understand the feasibility of it. I do agree that we do have a lot of infrastructure that's ready to go and ready to develop. I'm not necessarily sure that we can afford or even want to afford a new build of any type of significance. The art center that they have in Orleans and Ottawa, you have to understand that we are less than 5% of the population of Ottawa. Yeah, they have millions and millions of dollars. They actually have the government, the federal government there. Imagine the amount of money that they can pour into it. I think we can develop a really nice art community and art center in our city, and get the youth involved and fundraise for it personally. And of course, grants. There is, like you said, there is a lot of money coming down the pipe. Other than that, everything was said, and I'm right on time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You may have been last, but I think you did say a lot in your testimony. Right. And so with that, we come to the last 60 seconds granted to you. And this is kind of a personal question for Focus Art. And it's maybe a little selfish on us, but if you were elected, how would you support the Focus Art Association? Our little 9,500 visual artists who are more or less here. Some of us are at home painting, doing our art. To obtain funds for organizing events, programming, and community projects. Are you aware of any funding? Now's your chance, Andre. That is currently available that would help Focus Art raise money. We're not that good at it, so apparently you could help us. Would you support legislations requiring any building, as the federal and provincial government does, that would commission local artwork for an amount equal to a percentage total of the total of a building cost? And to do this, we're going to keep you in suspense. We're just going to pull the names out one at a time. Louise, you'll be the one doing it. Louise is new to Cornwall, well, not really, 2 years. And she's an artist, she's a filmmaker. She's worked in the art scene for her whole career. In Montreal. Gary. No, the mic's down at the other end. Gary.
Was near the end last time, now I'm at the first. I would support any actions that the Focus Art did come and bring forward to council. Like I said, I agree in the Arts Center. There are other strategies and things that have to go on, and we look at them. I see that culture and art is in every one of us, and it does have a value economically by looking at the faces of these people sitting here tonight. I just hope that you guys continue and get your dream of what you want, because you do have a positive impact in the community, and if I could be a part of that in any way, I would love to help. I don't know of any funding that is available, but I'm sure with the other members of council, we would be able to find something if anything was available and help you. And with that, I thank you for inviting me, and I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Oh, it's 60 seconds, eh, this time?
60 seconds, okay, thank you very much. If elected, I would support the arts, I do now. And if you're talking to Focus Arts, I think we have to look at the whole picture, just not individual pictures. That's the way it should be. Is there any funding currently available? As I was saying, and I'll run it back down to you, this money that was brought down. If you have somebody, you want to get out of poverty, and I come from a large family, 17. If you want to, you have to make them feel that proud of themselves. The only way you do that is try to get them in programs where they can build up their confidence. I think that this one here is when she talks about the one I'm looking at here, is continue to break the cycle of poverty with focus on children and youth. Here's a perfect, and working for the city for 17 years, I applied for many grants. And there's a gentleman I used to deal with all the time through HRDC was Bert Morin. And I'm sure everybody knows him. Bert's words were, tell me what I want to hear. And the money was all
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alyssa. If elected, how would you support the Focus Art? Well, I'd help them make applications to council, and then if they required other funding, I would help them go on to the province and the federal government. Are you aware of any funding that is currently available that would help Focus Arts raise money? Well, I have an idea. I don't know of any that are current, but however, I spoke to a gentleman in break time that's having an art gallery at down here at the home in September. Now, if he takes his paintings down there, he should invite all the artists to be there. If he sells one painting while it's there at the Glen Store on Lodge, then you should take one of your best paintings and devote it to Focus Art. So I'm saying, get the youth involved.
Thank you, Jerry.
And spend money.
That's not long, huh? 60 seconds. Gone.
Hi, thank you. Within the context of the city, I do know that Cornwall has municipal grants for special events and for community projects that anyone is eligible for applying. And also, I already mentioned that creating the public art policy so that we can develop a 1% development budget to public art. But also, I don't know if Focus Art has actually worked with the Cornwall Business Enterprise Center, which is part of economic development as well as the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade, and they're a resource of funding opportunities. They would be able to help you write grants with the Community Futures Development Corporation, hook you up with the Ontario Arts Council, and other funding sources. So there are some opportunities within the city to look into.
Thank you, Alyssa.
You're welcome.
As you know,
Hold the mic close to your
I'm
mouth,
sorry.
please.
As you know, I do support the arts greatly. I would support Focus Art just as much as any other art that I deal with. I deal with artists all the time. Regarding funding, again, because I'm new to the city, I'm not sure about internally in the city. I am aware, I do run a nonprofit also, and I've been dealing with Trillium, and I do know that they have quite a bit of funding for events like this, especially if we created some sort of educational art project for youth or for anybody actually. And regarding a tax credit, yeah, what I would be for is a percentage tax credit on new development, new building, from the point of new housing or new commercial. I would love to see a little statue, a little stained glass.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What I think the question should be is, would we support arts and culture groups as a whole coming to council? Would we be cheerleaders for the arts community? Absolutely. And not only will I be that cheerleader, but I will encourage our 9 other council members to get behind the arts scene and really support it, excel to what its true potential is. I've seen Focus Art perform in July at the Art Gallery, and what they put out was unbelievable. Actually, we got a bit of a glimpse of what an art center could be because they had the art, of course, and there was yoga and music and hustle and bustle, and it was really, it was beautiful. And I think that's Focus Art, that's one group. There are so many others in the community looking to do that, and I think we should get behind them all and support them grow the arts in our community, provide more opportunity for artistic and cultural expression for our youth and for everybody in general.
Thank you very much, Carolyn.
Thank you for the question. I personally don't really know how to obtain funds, et cetera, from council's perspective, but we do assist with fundraisers. We assist with in-kind. Our city departments are excellent with that, so if there are fundraising efforts, we are excellent at doing that. I'm not aware of any funding that's currently available. I've never seen any programs. We work with Denny Thibault at Eastern Ontario Training Board. He's been excellent at giving us advice on any funding that's available. And I really don't understand the last question. I know you're looking for a percentage of a cost of but
If you
I
were
don't
to
even
put
know
up a building,
I don't even know if that's legal. I would have to check and see if we could actually do that. So I know we can do it for parks, but I don't know if we can actually do it for that. So that I don't have an answer for.
well, I won't take the time right now to go into it, but government buildings do it. Say if they put up a building and they give a certain percentage for some of the artwork, or some of the design would go to artists.
Okay, so that's something I'm not aware of. So
No. But I don't
can
know.
be educated on it.
Okay, and it would be nice if a city would put up a building too, you know, I mean, it's not in our near future, but you never know.
Shovel ready.
Guy?
Merci beaucoup encore une fois. So if elected to support Focus Art, one thing I want to say as far as you artists, I am a business owner. I was approached by your Arts Council to try and get your artwork into my shop on consignment. That gives a return, it gives you a percentage, it gets you exposure. I want to see more of that happen. Consignment pieces are important, working towards the Arts Center, working for you. I know I never want to bring up the issue of closing Pitt Street completely ever again, but in Montreal I see how they implement these post structures where you can close it for a weekend, you can convert your downtown, you bring people downtown. We're already saying they're not there during the weekends. That's a way to attract them. So that said, I will say I do support the legislation. I wasn't really clear on the percentage part, but I will say I do. One thing though is if we do a percentage of that I'm mentioning, is we just have to look at professional artists versus welcome guests and local artists all coming in together, because that's important.
Thank you very much.
I already support the arts. When we had our 5th year anniversary party, I had a local comic and singer perform. When we had our town hall meeting, I had a local comic get a chance to work with one of Canada's biggest comics and most famous ones. I would support, when elected, if we were able to have an art center having some money for the arts, but it would not be a blank check, and it would have to be based on what was proposed. Art is always about attraction. It's not just for the sake of art. If I'm not attracted to the art, I'm not going to write a check for it, and I buy art and right across the different spectrums. So you guys have to do your end for elected officials to do our end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If elected, I think the only role I could play at this time would be as an advocate for all of the arts, including Focus Arts. As far as the funding goes and helping you with there, under the YAC has, under Bruce Davis, will help you prepare funding applications for Trillium and other organizations. Would you support legislation? No. But then again, I do believe that you should be able to have an opportunity to expose your wares in the municipal buildings, indicating the artist's name, the contact number, and allow the people to view them. As far as the corporation investing into art, I don't think that I could support that.
Thank you.
Okay, so would I support Focus Art? So I need to tell a little story, guys. I was the first candidate here tonight, and before I even sat down, Rose had convinced me to give a $500 sponsor to her organization. So yes, I would support if I was elected. I already do. I didn't need applause, but thank you very much. Secondly, Suzanne, our lovely timekeeper for the day, she runs the French Cultural Center. She's also my tenant, and I provide a substantial rent abatement to them as well. So I think that it's clear that I do support the arts in that regard. Is there any available funding? I believe there is. Bruce Davis, again from YAC, I spoke with him yesterday. He said there is actually substantial funding available on the provincial level, and they cover a variety of different types of artists, from theater to a gallery. There is even funding for a council, which he has tapped into to operate the Arts Council. In regards to the last question, like Glenn, I'm not quite certain on the legal framework of the question, so I don't really have any comment. Thank you very much. I'm Brock Frost again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and once again, thank you for having all of us. And with 60 seconds, here I go. Talking about, if elected, how would you support the Focus Art, work together with other arts groups? Because when you come with a unified voice to council, especially, it's heard better. It's heard with that, with authority. And it allows you the opportunity to show that you're willing to work with other groups, and then council, and most levels of government as well, will give you what you need to succeed, or will put the things in place that will allow you to succeed. And I can't stress that enough. That's how we were able to get funding for the pool, the Benson Center, you name it. When it comes to that, especially with arts, we have to work together. Are you aware of any funding currently available? No, not specific funding, but with that said, it has been mentioned, the city does have, once a year you can make a presentation. And for in-kind services too, that is very valuable as well. Now, would I support legislation requiring any building? This is something would have to be investigated again with the legalities of it, but it is definitely worth considering.
Thank you very much.
I think best to answer number one, I would answer number two first, and that is, am I aware of any funding? I'm not personally aware of any funding, but I would suggest to anybody that you go to your Arts Council, because as mentioned before, Bruce Davis is all over funding and grants for artists to continue doing what they like to do. And if you needed something from the city and you came to me as a councillor and said, I've been to the government and I'm going to get this X number of dollars from a grant and X number of dollars from this grant, how could a city councillor turn you down for the difference? You've gone out of your way to find money before you came to me. Now you have money. Absolutely, I would support you in that regard. I don't know if you need to legislate buildings to carry artwork. I think, as Guy had mentioned quickly about supporting it, he's got selling consignment. I think if businesses were to support art and art was to support businesses, other businesses that aren't supporting it, see these other businesses being successful, you're absolutely going to support it. So I think that would be the way to go. But I would certainly look at this as an option as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Well, thank you very much. We're right on time. Would you consider answering a couple of questions from the audience? Does anyone from the audience still have a question? Peter Fortin?
I've been involved in the arts for many, many years, and I traveled to many communities, especially communities in Vermont where the arts have grown. And I know, as some of you said, Cornwall's been a mill town. Cornwall's been a mill town, which is now trying to change, and I really admire some of the people who are trying to make it change, Focus Art and some other groups. I asked this question: how many statues, how many murals does Cornwall have to draw people in? How much history does it have to draw people in? Where are we putting our arts? There are a few murals down in the East End, there are some downtown, but the possibility of promoting art and putting these murals in, I think with the talent that's here, could be something that could be looked at. The question I have for all of you who are on council and considering this is, the city should put the priority of the arts, all of the arts, higher up to raise the stature of what we have. When I go down to these places and see what they've become from the artists who have enriched, it's nice and warm to go into. And we need some people to say, we are going to do it. So would you, as an elected member, be willing to say, budget time, this is how much money I'm willing to put for the arts?
Would anyone care to answer this? Okay, give it to Jamie, and then Glenn. Anyone else? Jamie, Glenn, and Jerry.
We sadly have a history here in Cornwall of not cherishing our artistic heritage. If you look at our buildings compared to Brockville, I know Brockville has some stunning buildings that we never had, but right now, for example, we have the Port Theatre, which is a 75-year-old original Roxy Theatre that has been bought by people that are giving their blood to keep it going. They're being harassed by the city, and they've been bringing in live performances. We need to move forward. I would suggest that if, when elected, that we take a portion of the interest from the Progress Fund and devote that to the arts. I'd like to see that on the table.
Thank you.
Come budget time, you know, there's a lot of pressure on City Council. And I'm not going to try and fool everybody and say, yeah, there'll be a pot of money there for arts or anything else. But with the Waterfront Development Committee, I was on the Waterfront Development Committee, and they just wanted to say, well, let's ask for $100,000. Well, it didn't work. They have to be project specific. So now we get project specific requests from the Waterfront Development Committee at budget time. And it's the only way it's going to work. So I could say, yes, we're going to support the arts, as the question goes, but you have to find projects, specific projects with a dollar value associated with it to have any success at all. I don't want to be blunt about it, but that's the reality of budget time. And if you don't do that, then there's no way you're going to get support around the council table, no matter what everyone says here, because budget time is a tough time.
Thank you, Rose. The Port Theatre was mentioned. I believe there was some funding given to the port this year. However, being on the Housing Committee, being on Social Services Committee, and being on Emergency Services, there's not much left. And with the province downloading and downloading, it is harder every day. We're trying to maintain a 1% budget, which we did. The taxes should have been up 3%, but we cut it. Every member of council got together. I don't know how many hours we put in, but we dropped it to 1%. We were thinking of new families coming in. We were thinking of those that want to remain in their home because of their age, and they want to remain in their home. It is very, very difficult. I control budgets on the school board, and they're nowhere near the budget that we have at this council. So what I'm saying, I don't know. We can, like Glenn said, we can't honestly promise you money, but we can try and help. If you artists stick together and come and make demands to us, we're there to represent you. We represent what the people want, and we'll do our best to try and achieve it. That's all I can. I'm not going to make any promises because I don't. I do the best, I listen, and then we try and do our best. That's all we can do, and we hope that an art center, I think a coordinator should be worked on, and over the years, we'll have our art center. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Any other question?
I promise to be good. Thank you. My name is Manjeet Shergill. I'm a visitor from another little city. I won't name the city. It's a little fishing village that developed into a global hub in 45 years. So when I came to Cornwall, I can compare, you know? So I think the first thing is, like Glenn from the economic development, there's not much the board can do from that department. So what we did was there's no doubt that an art center is necessary. There's no doubt. And from once the art center is done, everything else will get connected to it. The city will flourish economically and also culturally. There's no doubt, right? So an art center is inevitable. It's going to happen 8 years, 12 years, next year. And tonight, it was also important because we have renewals. So we are expecting new members, new blood. The association is 10 years old, and we are ready for a reinvention. And we will be, I said to the president, don't mention funding, because funding it's always a subject that's, I think it's important for the association to help itself first, and we will do that. So we are hoping to have members who will, first of all, unify artists, and one of the ways to do that is to get an art center, so there will be that gathering space. And the question is, I'm sorry, it's interesting for me from a visitor's perspective to first of all hear everybody here from your side, and to have got involved with the association for the last few months. I kind of understand what's going on now a little bit better, but I think the support should come from the Arts Council, and the Arts Council has to work closely with the Economic Development Board, where the funding, it's not that there's no funding, there's just no organized steps, because funding should not be the big issue. So my question is, how soon do you think the Arts Center can happen?
Who would like to answer that question? Who has the crystal ball? Andre, and then Caroline, and Dave, and then somebody remember the order.
Thank you. I don't have the crystal ball for that, but I can tell you, when I heard one of the, Jamie talk about the Progress Fund, that money's all tied up. That's tied up paying off the Benson Center. It was tied up also doing other projects that we did in the city. The principle of that fund will never, and I would never support touching that 25 million bucks we got in there, because we've done so much work with the interest, and right, but we have an old infrastructure where we're spending $15 million in sewers. Now, that don't sound important. You get a flooded basement, it sounds important. So I think we're trying to take actions what the people of the community wants. Now, I understand where you're coming from, but I think that council has stepped in the right direction by forming a committee, and we have to wait till we get the report back from them, and to know, what you got to pull all together, like Glenn said. All the hockey teams, they all pull together going the same way. I think it's important that the Arts Committee also do that. But the reason why the funding hasn't done previously is because some of the areas we have to deal with, it's emergencies.
So I don't have a crystal ball either, but we have a great opportunity. Canada is celebrating a big anniversary coming up in 2017, where I would assume the federal government will be providing a lot of grants for art development, economic development. So I think before that happens, the community really needs to show that we're serious about this. So our fundraising efforts locally need to be ramped up. The community needs to be amped up, needs to be supportive of all of this. And come 2017, we can show the federal government we're serious and this is happening. So now, help us. So I don't see anything happening before then, but once 2017 rolls around and they support us 100%, I would definitely see our vision happening within the next 5 to 10 years. It's a big project, right after that.
Thank you very much. And Rome wasn't built in a day. This won't be built in a day. But with that said, what are you prepared to do? What is the art community prepared to get ready to have? Because as Caroline mentioned, 2017 is being talked about already. Let's look at that. Why can't we be prepared? If you're not prepared, you might miss an opportunity. And even from that, the Benson Center took about 8 years to come to fruition. And it was a shovel-ready project when the funding became available, and look what we have. We have a jewel in the city that not only in Eastern Ontario, but the entire province and Eastern Canada, visitors routinely tout it and brag about it. Well, we can do the same thing, again, working together, getting the business community involved. That starts that ball rolling. And once that ball is rolling, you're not going to be able to stop it. It'll soon become an avalanche. But you have to get that ball rolling with the combination of the entire arts community, not one sector, and the business community getting it involved. that is very, very crucial. Thank you.
I have Jamie here, and then Glenn and Todd.
First of all, Andre, I suggested we spend some of the interest, not the principal, from the Progress Fund. A building, well, and that shows the priority of the council for the last 8 years by investing everywhere but the arts. As one of the few artists sitting on this panel today, and someone that's achieved the peak in my field, I mean, I got to watch the Oscar envelope open for a project that I created. I can tell you that as great as art centers are, they are only a building, just like this is a building. It's what artists do within the building, within their temple. Make art, everything else will come into play. But make art, focus on your art. Thank you.
Good point.
Crystal ball is not a good option anytime, but let me give advice on one. We keep going to the Benson Center, but it's a principle that you can use. You need a champion. You need someone to take this and go with it. And it's not only one person, but there has to be one person that gets everything organized and do it. And that's what happened with the Benson Center. There was a champion there. They organized and got a committee together. The components of that committee was across the community, and you get representatives from all the arts, but you need that champion. You need that one person, and if I can give you the best advice of all, get that one person to spearhead it and go for it. And whether it's a member of council or a member of the community outside, you've got to get that person driving this force. So that's my advice. I lived it, and I know what I'm talking about in that respect.
Obviously, there's no crystal ball, but I can tell you from the culture plan committee that I'm on, we will be hosting a needs assessment this fall, and we talk about building partnerships.
Excuse me, Todd. When you say needs assessment, is that feasibility?
Yes.
The $20,000? Okay.
So the city has set aside money to do this study so that we know what we need, where we need it, how much is it going to cost, should it be new, should it be a rebuild. So we have all those answers, because if there's one thing you've heard a few times, and Glenn just mentioned a few minutes ago, is we need shovel-ready projects. So I would hope, and I would expect, that after this needs assessment is done, we're going to have all those answers. What does it have to be? What does it have to include? Where is it going to be? All those wonderful things, so that when the funding becomes available, we're ready to say, boom, here's our project. And then this is exactly what we need, and the money would this government, as 2017 was just mentioned, the federal government will be throwing money around to celebrate the anniversary of Canada in 2017. And if we're shovel ready, then maybe we're looking at an art center in 3-4 years down the road. But it's a matter of getting the study done. So and I stress this, when the needs assessment goes public for consultations in the fall, make sure you're there and make sure you get your opinion heard, so that we can put a final report together and say, when the money is available, here it is, give us our share.
Thank you. Pass it.
Thank you. I have a note in front of me. It says, CUA News, artists declared 2017 the year of Cornwall's Art Center. I have another note that should be very important. MP Guy Lozon said he would make Heritage Minister Shelley Gulliver fully aware of the citizens' movement to find Cornwall's art scene a permanent home. I make a promise to you all here that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that this wonderful dream you have becomes a reality, said our Member of Parliament. So let's keep reminding our Member of Parliament what he promised. Let the artists stay together, stay strong. If you stand together and strong, get the youth involved, get people in surrounding areas involved, it'll happen. I don't believe in 5 years. I believe in a couple of years. And what a better occasion than federal government to dish out money on our 150th anniversary of Canada. There should be money available. If we apply soon, we'll get it. Get that coordinator hired, get her going, and get everybody amalgamated, and we will succeed. If they say build it, and they'll come. Let's build it, and let's get a coordinator as soon as possible. Thank you.
In Sarnia, I became aware of Art Again, and they had two wonderful art communities that worked separately but often together. But every first Friday of the month, okay, the downtown area that was getting kind of tired looking like our downtown area, okay, they were hosting an art show. They called it the Art Walk, and several other cities have this as well. And you can't imagine the thousands of people this brought down to the downtown area. And maybe about 10 storefronts would host an artist for the month, and they would hang their art. There could be maybe 2 artists in one location, depending on the room that they'd have. And that artist would be available on that Friday night, where anybody in the community could go in and talk and get to know the artist, which was a wonderful way that I got to know lots of friends. And it actually got me involved in art again. And it also brought some business to the downtown stores that often people didn't bother to go in. Even a music store was holding art. An antique store was holding art. So it brought different people in. It's also a border town to United States, just like we are here. And people from United States was coming over for that art walk. So it got to be very well known, and like from 6 o'clock on, people would walk up and down the street, in and out of the stores, and then they'd go and have supper or to the bar or whatever. And it was bringing a lot of, yes, I do have a question. So I was wondering, what do you think if we did this on our Pitt Street, it would help maybe the economy of some of those stores that are getting tired looking? What do you think? Do you think that's a possibility that we could do something here? Andre?
Thank you. Just, you know, as you may not know, we have BIAs downtown in the village. So, great idea. But where you'd have to sell it to is the merchants downtown. They control the downtown. They control the closing of the streets. I can tell you that some of the arts, not the arts, but the music busters, you know, they've had it there a couple times. It's not easy to get everybody together to say, okay, you know, close it down and we'll do this. So that's the problem.
Thank you, Andre. I mentioned it a little bit in my talk. I think it's important to actually bring things back downtown. I like the idea. I think you read my mind when you just mentioned what's going on in Sarnia. I mentioned there's also Windsor, which I've heard had very similar things. They've developed a community being a U.S. border town. And just to raise awareness on funding, I've actually read that somewhere they've actually tapped into a Walmart fund where they were able to get Walmart to participate in some of the funding, which is something I didn't have time to mention in my few minutes a while ago. But I think the downtown incentive, coming from a creative background, bringing a multimedia aspect to it, bringing diverse things to the downtown core. Of course, if the business people are on board, I know some of the business people there that are welcoming this and would love to get that going. So I think it is a welcome initiative.
Thank you, Guy. You know, the thing with that, I'm going to give this to Jamie and then Carolyn. The thing with that, though, there's half of it that's our initiative, but there has to be a little bit of leadership there, too, you know. It's kind of a dance, you know, a tango. It takes two. And you know, it's hard for us to go knocking on the door and saying, you know, peddle your wares all the time. I don't think we know how to do that.
We had a downtown farmers market for a number of years. The first few years under its first leader were really successful and actually incorporated the arts. It was really, really successful in a lot of levels. I think that exact spot, if the city furnished it with the cooperation of the DBIA, would be perfect for this type of project, and you wouldn't have to close any streets down. Thank you.
A few moons ago, myself and a group of friends, we organized a busker festival downtown. So it was basically Water Street to 3rd Street. We had artists all the way up and down in front of the storefronts, maybe 20, 30 artists for the day. Focus Art, I believe, was there. They were doing live painting of the clock tower. It was a really great day. I organized this with a couple of other people where we were working full time, and we had low resources, no money. We had a kids zone for activities, whatnot. And the reception was great. The community loved the idea. The merchants really appreciated the driving of consumerism downtown, of course. So I think there is definitely need for it. There's a want for it, but like you said, Rose, leadership. Somebody needs to take this on, and we mentioned a coordinator. This could be something that an arts coordinator can really focus on once, twice a summer. It can definitely be a reality. Actually, and we raised funds for the United Way. So all the artists were busking, and all the money they gathered was donated. So artists are very generous, and we thank you for that.
You know, these are always one-shot deals, and they require a lot of energy. And while you're organizing and doing all this, as Jamie said, you're not painting or you're not doing your thing. And I just have to tell you, the month of July was great. But I didn't do any art. And I don't think many of the people here who are our workers, we didn't do art. We were doing administration, we were doing all the other stuff, you know, because it requires us to do another kind of work than our artwork. So somewhere along the way, somebody has to meet us halfway. We're not business people, I agree. Somebody has to help us here. So I think we can maybe sum up with the words, you have been so generous with your time and your ideas. And I have the pleasure of saying merci beaucoup, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful evening, and we have wonderful possibility of leaders tonight. Thank you.
Et merci beaucoup à vous aussi. Thank you to the audience.